So Allah blessed me to work there at the second largest bank in Malaysia, doing Sharia mainly. I was there for a number of years, and also Indonesia, Singapore, the UK, all of these countries. I was able to see how they do Islamic finance in all of these countries. All the while, I was always looking to my people here. What can we do here? How can I help here? Alhamdulillah, Allah blessed me to be able to help the university bank, which is here in Michigan. So I was on their Sharia board for some time, one of the four members of Sharia supervision board, and I was involved in also doing an audit, going through thousands of pages of actual transactions to make sure that it's all being done correctly. And then now I moved to other countries, but now I'm back in Malaysia. But Alhamdulillah, I'm visiting my in-laws over here, and then Allah blessed me, mashallah, and the brothers to invite me to come and be able to share in the khutbah and to share over here. So I'm very, very excited to be here amongst all of you and to kind of share, inshallah, whatever I have learned in these 20 years and traveling in many, many countries, all the while with the intention to come to this moment and to help our brothers and sisters here to have alternatives. So inshallah, that's the plan, that's the story, okay, inshallah. So with that, this, I'm really depending on all of you to share with me, what is your wish list, okay? What are the things that you wish that you can come out of here with? Dua list, and making dua. What do you think? I was going to make stars and stuff, but that's not Sharia compliant, like wish on a star. We don't do that. Okay, so what do you think? So just tell me, what are the things that you are curious about when it comes to Islam and money and finance? And so we can make a list, and then I will navigate the discussion to cover those things. Bismillah. Yes.
How about what should the business owners think about when trying to make a business halal and get barakah?
Okay. How to make business halal plus barakah. Okay, Jamil, what else?
I think this is one of the questions that everybody wants to know about. How to buy a house, Sharia compliant without visa.
Okay. How to buy a house without riba. That is the big question in America. Yes, brother. Investing in stocks / retirement funds. What else from the sister side? Anything from sister side? Savings accounts, okay. Okay. Yes, brother. Credit card. Okay. Okay. Yes. Crypto coins. All right. Sometimes they call them crypto assets. Yes, brother. Oh, red shirt. Yeah, you got the red. How many people got red shirts, man? Okay, stock options, funded accounts. I don't even know what that is. / futures. Futures, I know what they are, but funded accounts, you need to teach us what that is. Then we can give you the hukum. Yes, brother. Well, finance jobs. Like PE and investment banking. Okay. All right. Yes, brother in the back. What's that? Loan. Okay. In general. Okay, loans. Yes, brother. Uh-huh. Okay. So savings account / what to do with the interest or no interest. Okay, that's a very good question. Yes, brother. Dividends and profit sharing on what? Hmm. Okay. So dividends and profit sharing. Normally, profit sharing would be for private companies, right? Dividends would be for from more public companies. Okay. Yes, brother. Okay. Refinancing. All right. We got how to buy a house slash refinance. All right. The longer you make the list, the later you're gonna stay. Okay. It's about the yeah. Insurance. Yep. Yep. Okay. All right. What about sisters? Anything from sister side? Brothers are all always worried about money. Yes, sister. Education in okay. Okay. 529. Okay. Anything else from sister? I want to be just, you know? All right. All right. Yes, go ahead, brother. Day trading. All right. All right. Yes. Oh, points and fees. That. So points, fees, rewards, all that stuff on credit cards. Okay. Maybe we take two, three more, and then we close it. Yes, brother. Oh, I don't know if I can do that one. That one's a different subject. Okay. How to build wealth without relying on 9 to 5. Okay. Cool. One or two more? Yeah, go ahead. Anybody didn't say one yet? Oh, brother. Yes. Investing using apps. Okay. Okay. Well, anything else? Yep. Hmm? Oh, if you leave, that might be outside of my area of expertise. That one. So you said if because you're saying if you leave the U.S., can you leave some money here? All right. Oh, so just keeping money. So that goes back to savings accounts, keeping money in savings accounts slash keeping money. That's a good question, actually, in U.S. banks. Okay. All right. One more, and then we go start answering it. Oh, slash car too, huh? Okay. You guys want to buy a lot? Car. Slash car. Okay. Cool. If we can get all of those, mashallah, we'll be in good shape. Inshallah. Bismillah. Okay. So okay, I wanna ask a favor of my brother in the red shirt. What's your name, bro? Ahmed. Can you take a picture of this and then remind me? Make sure that we cover them all. Okay? Okay. Bismillah. So, you got it? All right. Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So, I'm gonna try to do it like this. Home slash car. Okay, I'm gonna do something like that. Okay, and then I'm gonna write stuff over here, and then we have our list over here. So, alhamdulillah, salatu salam ala rasulillah. So, okay, first thing I like to start talking about animals. There is two ahadith just to explain what we talk when we say Islamic finance or when we say financing in light of Islam. There is a hadith about a woman who the Prophet ﷺ said that she was, committed a lot of sins. بغية من بغايا بني إسرائيل. She committed a lot of sins, and one day she was in the desert and she was thirsty, and so she went into a well. She got water and she drank it, and she saw a thirsty dog, and the dog was licking the wet sand. And she said, just like this dog is thirsty, I'm also thirsty. Sorry, just like I was thirsty, the dog was thirsty. So she took off her shoes, she went in the well, she took the water, and she fed the dog. You guys know the story? Yeah. And then Allah forgave her sins because she did that nice thing to the dog. Likewise, or in a different sense, there was a woman, Bani Israel, and she imprisoned a cat. She took this cat from the wilderness, imprisoned the cat, put it at home. She didn't feed the cat. She didn't let the cat hunt, and the cat died out of hunger. And the Prophet ﷺ said that she's going to be punished in the fire because of that, right? So one of the things that we learn from this is the importance of doing good, doing benefit, and avoiding harm. So if we think about Islamic finance, effectively, we say Islamic, okay, and then finance. What does Islamic finance mean? I've been thinking, over this past 20 years, of what is the definition of it. A lot of people give definitions from different angles. So, but what I say is that Islamic finance, and finance, what it is, we have majors here. Who's the finance major? Okay, our brother. Abdullah, right? Abdurrahman. How would you define finance? Okay, so you're saying effectively finance goes back down to managing money. Okay. Say Islamic finance is managing money. We use Abdurrahman's definition, okay? Okay? According to Islam. That makes sense? Okay. The question is, when we say according to Islam, we need to open that more. So according to Islam, mainly we're talking about according to Sharia, which is the Islamic laws. Sharia law, Islamic law. Sharia law, what is it about? It takes us back to the dog and the cat. The ulama of Maqasid, Imam Ghazali, others, they say, Imam al-Qarafi, Izm Abdul Salam, they say Sharia is all about maximizing the benefit and minimizing the harm. Okay? So, maximizing benefit, and I say to individuals and society, and minimizing harm. Okay, maximizing benefit, minimizing harm. So that's basically what Sharia is about. Everything in Sharia, and I can add in this life and the next. Everything in Sharia you can imagine, every rule in Sharia, every rule that we have in Islam goes back to this. Maximizing the benefit, minimizing the harm to individuals and society in this world and the next. Okay? So then the question comes, what is a benefit and what is harm? Okay? Because I teach in the banks and stuff, I teach Islamic finance, and I have to explain it to people in a way that Muslim, non-Muslims, everybody, in a way that it makes sense. So benefit and harm, we say we have something. Is anybody aware of the concept of al-daruriyat al-khams? We have some طلاب العلم. Yes, can you tell me, chair brother? Okay. Okay, one more. All right. Okay, intellect, yes. Aql. Okay, these five. These five, they call it Daruriyat al-Khams, Maqasid al-Sharia, Kulliyat al-Khamsa, they call it different things, all right? The issue is that you cannot have life, you cannot have a society without these things. And these are things that Sharia emphasizes, And actually, every religion has these as principles that need to be preserved and protected. Protecting religion, protecting life, protecting family and lineage, protecting intellect, protecting property and wealth. This is why we have hudud against ridda, against killing, right? Against zina, against alcohol, and against theft. Okay? We have hudud to protect these things. Okay. So, the way I would define Islamic finance is managing money with the aim of maximizing benefit to individuals and society and minimizing harm in this life and the next, in line with the universal values of preservation of religion, life, family, intellect, property. In line with the universal values, in line with the universal values of this. So this is my definition of Islamic finance that I created after 20 years. Okay? Copyright. See. Okay? So everything we're going to talk about effectively is going to come back to this. Now, whenever scholars, when we talk about halal and haram, right? How do you know if something is, generally speaking, when ulama are looking at things, halal and haram? We have in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْخَمْرِ وَالْمَيْسِرِ قُلْ فِيهِمَا إِثْمٌ كَبِيرٌ وَمَنَافِعُ لِلنَّاسِ وَإِثْمُهُمَا أَكْبَرُ مِنْ نَفْعِهِمَا. Okay, about khamr, alcohol, and gambling, right? The thing is, this goes back to a story, The Arabs, they used to love something called gambling and used to love something called wine. They loved them so much. So they would drink and they would get drunk, and then they would actually be very generous sometimes. So someone would be drunk in the bar, poor person comes, please help me, and then the drunk person, I'll give you 50 camels, 100 camels, whatever, right? They're drunk, but they're also generous. Sometimes, like when you're drunk, whatever's inside comes out. So there was something good from that being drunk, but then there's of course a lot of bad things. Same thing with the gambling. So they would gamble, people would make money. Whoever would win, many times he would give in charity. MashaAllah, he just won a lot of money, and then he sees poor people, he gives them. So it seems like there's something good, right? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that they ask you about these things, say there is some benefit, but there's more harm. The harm and there's harm, and the harm is more than the benefit. So generally speaking, when we look at all of these, there's always this idea of harm and benefit. And wherever the harm is more, then typically Sharia will say, don't do this. Either don't do it, it's haram, or it's makruh, right? Either don't, if it's haram, definitely don't do it. If it's makruh, better not to do it, right? Or if the benefit is more than the harm, if the benefit is really a lot, then sometimes the Sharia will say you have to do this. It's wajib. And sometimes it'll say it's better to do it, so it's mustahab. If the harm and benefit are equal, then it'd be mubah. Okay? By the way, if anybody has any question in the middle, please just raise your hand, ask, shout out, whatever you want to do, so we all stay awake, because after Maghrib is really late, And I really appreciate you all being here. Okay. So a lot of the things that we're looking at these days, it has to do with this balancing. It has to do with looking at the benefit, looking at the harm, how the different ulama have looked at these issues, Okay, so any questions on this? So this is what we're trying to do. This is our goal. And it's very important that as Muslims, I mentioned this in the khutbah, whatever we do, we have to know what is the hukm of Allah. Is'alu ahla dhikri in kuntum la ta'lamun. The Quran says, ask the people of knowledge if you don't know. So we have to make sure that we do the right thing. And if we follow the right process, we go to the people of knowledge, we go to the people that we trust, and we ask them, and we follow them, inshallah, we're covered. Not everybody here has to be an expert in finance and an expert in fiqh and go and do your own analysis you don't have to do that. It's very difficult, actually. So it takes a long time, and I'm still learning it, myself after like 20 years. Okay, so we have this, all right. So now I want to, after this overview, I want to start getting into our question list, okay? So we have some questions about finance, and we have questions about investing. I think overall that's kind of the main one. Okay. So how to Make a business halal. How to buy a house. Okay. So business halal, this is reliant on everything else here. Do what's good and stay away from the bad things. Effectively, that's what it is, right? The word riba means increase in the Quran. ما أوتيت من ربا ليربو في أموال الناس فلا يربو عند الله. Okay? Impermissible increase. This impermissible increase can
Sorry, I have a
yeah.
question about the word riba. The Quran ذكر الربا بالألف وبالواو. Is there a difference between the two words?
ما أوتيت من ربا ليربو في أموال الناس فلا يربو عند الله وما آتيت من زكاة تريدون وجه الله فأولئك هم المضعفون. يربو ربا, it's a similar root. The root is similar. ربا يربو.
لا بس مكتوبة بالواو الربا
Yeah.
والربا بالألف.
Yeah, I know.
الصلاة أيضا بالواو.
Yeah. It's in sarf because uh, raba, because you have to go back to the root. You have to the past, because the riba itself is a ism riba, right? But yarbu is the mudara, the verb. So raba is a past, yarbu is a present, and then riba is the like the masdar or the noun form of it. So it's all coming from a similar root. Allahu alam. That's my what I know of sarf. Inshallah. So impermissible increase. So there's some things in sales. So in sales, you have to be careful of riba. So one example of this one, impermissible increase, sometimes in time. Sometimes it's not allowed to increase in time. So and when you're doing foreign currency exchange, I'm doing a foreign currency exchange, it has to be, when it's currencies or gold and silver, it has to be immediate. You're not allowed to delay in time. That delaying in time is riba, is impermissible increase. But that riba is in time, not in amount. Okay? So for like an FX transaction. احنا مش هندخل في التفاصيل دي هكذا يعني. Yeah, this would be considered riba nasi'a. Nasi'a has to do with time. So transactions have to be immediate. Okay? Immediate. Dollar, real, no, but it's pegged, it doesn't matter, okay? The other thing, there are some things where the amount cannot increase, okay? So if you if you say, okay, the typical example of that is dollars for dollars, and this is where you get into loans. So someone says, look, I will give you $100 now, and you give me 200 in 1 year. I give you dollars now, you give me 200 in 1 year. That increase there's two problems with that. One, it's an increase in time because whenever you're doing FX, currencies has to be, the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, hand to hand. So there's an increase in time. And then also there's an increase in amount. Because if it's the same currency, you cannot increase in the amount. So so sometimes in time and sometimes there's an issue in amount. So amount would be typically if you're doing, one currency for the same currency, dollars for dollars or something like that, it has to be the same amount. No increases allowed. So this is the issue with loans. The issue with loans, and the brother asked about loans, is that in Islam, and this is something very different from the West, in Islam, loans are considered to be an act of charity, right? So that it's subject to these riba rules. It's considered to be an act of charity. So if someone's giving you money, cash, okay, if you're going to pay back later, you can pay back only the same amount. You can only be committed to pay back the same amount. Okay? If the commitment in the contract is to pay back more, then that's considered riba. Right? That's an impermissible increase. Unless it's qard hasan. If it's qard hasan, it's not. It has to also be the same amount, but you can give it back. You can pay it back later, and that is considered to be an act of worship. You get like some ahadith, some narrations say like you get 17 times the reward if you give qard hasan. If you give a loan, interest-free loan. If someone gives you interest-free loan because they're very nice, and then you want to pay them back something extra, you want to give them a gift or whatever, just from the generosity of yourself, that's okay. And the Prophet ﷺ did that in some cases. Someone, he borrowed a camel, like a small camel from someone, and then the person came. Sometimes these Bedouins would come to like test the Prophet ﷺ. Hey, Muhammad, you owe me money. Pay me back my camel. Because your people are cheaters, whatever, all this kind of crazy stuff. That people would come, Bedouins, whoever. Of course, the Sahaba are just ready to like cut the guy's head off, But the Prophet ﷺ said, go. And then Sahabi gets mad at him. I think Umar anhu. And then the Prophet ﷺ says, okay, just, it's okay. Just tell him to be good in the way he asked, and you should tell me to pay on time. Of course, it wasn't time yet. And then he told them to pay this person a camel that was even more expensive than the one that he originally took. But that was just from his own generosity, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this issue of riba, the main issue, is for FX. This example of FX, and this is where you get into FX trading, things like that, has to be spot, cannot be delayed. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. So the qard hasan, the asl, they say that it's actually increase in time, which is normally not allowed, but it's allowed because it's an act of charity. So it's an act of charity, so that's why it's allowed. It doesn't. It can be a specific time where you specifically say you pay back in 1 week or 1 month or whatever. And you write it down. That's the asl. إذا تداينتم بدين إلى أجل مسمى فاكتبوه in the Quran. But if you say it paying back whenever, then that's also okay. You can also do that.
How does this apply to the bank? When the bank start giving money to people without interest, without being local, very short time.
Masakin. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think that's where Islamic banking comes in and says, okay, because in Islam we're not allowed to use loan as a way to make money. So what we do, أحل الله البيع وحرم الربا. So in Islamic banking, everything is based on bay'ah. So we're going to look at how we finance houses and all this kind of stuff. In Islamic finance, what we do is we will buy, if you say, I want, $100,000 loan. They'll say, why do you want a loan? Because for us, the Islamic bank will only give loan of qard hasan. That's act of charity because you're poor and you need help. You say, no, I need to buy this car. I'm going to buy, Mercedes for my wife. It's her birthday. She loves pink Mercedes. I'm going to get her the pink Mercedes. Right? It's our anniversary. Okay? 20 years. So, so in this case, right? So the bank will say, okay, I can't just give you 100,000, okay? But what I'll do is I'll buy the car, and then I can sell it to you. How many years you need to pay it off? 5 years, whatever. Okay, I'm gonna buy it for 100,000, but I need to make my profit. I'm gonna charge extra 50,000. So I'm gonna sell it to you for 150, and you pay me over 5 years. When the bank buys the car, the bank is taking the risk of this car. The car might like explode. The car might have a problem or something. So he takes the risk, and then he sells it to you. Or sometimes the bank will say, I'm going to buy the car and I'm going to lease it to you. Lease with option to buy. I lease it, and then over 5 years, you're paying the lease payment, and at the end, I will sell you the car for $1,000, $100, $1, whatever, how much we agree. So as long as you pay all the lease payments, then you can buy the car at a agreed upon price. The thing is, the big difference between the Islamic and the regular conventional banking is that Islamic is always buying something and selling it, while the conventional is just saying, here, take the money. Go ahead, you're going to buy a car? That's fine, buy the car and then give me a mortgage on the car, or give me title to the car or security to the car, and you have to pay me back 150. I give you money, you do whatever, pay me back more. The Islamic bank says, I'm not giving you any money. I'm going to buy the thing, right? And then I'm going to sell it to you, and then I'm going to lease it to you, and I'm going to make money that way. So that's basically the whole of how Islamic finance works. Okay? Go ahead, bro. If you ask the bank, they'll disagree. They'll say that they don't own it. If you look at their financial statement, we got some finance people here. The financial statement will show what the bank owns. The bank won't show in their asset side the car. The bank will show the debt that you owe them. So this is the big difference, on whether or not does the bank take ownership of the asset that they are financing. And the Islamic contention is that conventional banks do not take ownership, and them having it as a security is not the same as ownership. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. So it's not about knowing how much you're going to pay, because it's about how you enter into the transaction. You have to go from the right door. You have to go from the right way, right? So this is where وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَى, because ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّهُمْ قَالُوا إِنَّمَا الْبَيْعُ مِثْلُ الرِّبَى. The ayah says that they said that selling, buying and selling, bay'ah, is the same as riba. And one of the contentions was effectively that you can sell on installment, you can give loans, effectively, they look similar. You still have to pay back, But the Quran says, وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَى. Allah made sale halal and made riba haram. You can get more in detail. The main issue of riba is that you are taking the money, imagine a pile of money here. This is all like a pile of money, okay? It's just sitting here. It's sitting here. And if you leave it just as it is for a year, 100 years, it'll stay exactly as it is. Okay. The fact that I take this money and I don't have it and I give it to you, now it starts to grow automatically by itself. This is the issue. That because in Islam, and even conventional, when you give a loan to somebody, it's their responsibility to repay it. And if they don't repay it, then you can go after their assets and go after everything. Even on the Day of Judgment, you can go after them. It doesn't escape, Even if they're shaheed, they still don't escape. So effectively, your money is still guaranteed and still protected. You're not taking any risk. You're not taking any risk. This is the issue. So even the philosophers and Plato and Aristotle and all these people, they all said that this idea of interest is bad, and that it's not fair, because they say that money is sterile. It doesn't give birth to more money. So in order for this money to grow, philosophically, you have to convert it. I have to take this money and then I have to convert it into an asset. This is the asset. I buy something. And then when I buy something, I take the risk of this thing, even if I take the risk for 1 minute. But now I own this and I have the right to sell it. This is considered trade, tijara. And I can charge whatever I want, and I can, pay in take installments, or I can take it cash. Then I sell this, right? Then the person is paying me back, paying me the money. So that's the main issue. The main issue is, that there is a certain adab, that the money by itself cannot just make money. It has to be connected to an asset. Also, another thing in Islam, we have to also look at the asset. It has to be a halal asset. You can't. Another thing about, it's not just riba when you're selling, but you have to look at what is this asset. If someone's like, I want a loan. Why do you want the loan? I want to buy cocaine. For us, Islamically, I'm going to give you 1,000% profit. I can't do it. No, we'll do it in a Sharia compliant way. You will buy the cocaine, right? I'll tell you where you buy it. Okay, it's okay. And then sell it to me with 1,000% profit. I can't do that because this thing is not halal. So it's not halal for me to make any money from it. Same thing with pork. Same thing with alcohol, right? So that's kind of the conceptual framework. Yeah.
Would it also be able to explain in a way that it causes harm? Let's say, for example, you take on a mortgage for a house. You have to pay 120,000 with minimum installment. For the house only 100,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you go to the hospital. Now you have to pay hospital bills as well, and you can't afford to do the minimum bill.
Mm-hmm.
So then the money is you end up paying more, and that would cause harm. Would that be a way of explaining why riba itself is haram? While scale, you only pay the amount that is due no matter what.
Oh, from one angle, yeah. I mean, there would be a maximum price that you would pay. There are a couple of differences. One of them, there'll be a maximum ceiling. So in Islamic, it would not generally would not be able to continue increasing. But even that, it depends on the way you're financing it. It depends on the methodology and all that. That's one thing. Another thing is how we would act with somebody who is in difficulty. In Islam, we have in Canada someone's in difficulty, you have to give them time. So if there's somebody who is in difficulty, then in Islam we don't just increase the thing, in the payments. So we give them time. So that's another aspect, of the Islamic. Um, so we have some aspects, especially when in times of difficulty, the Islamic finance will always inherently be kinder with people who are in difficulty. Let me, 1 second. Okay, hold the question. Okay, let me just try to cover some of these, and then we go thing, question, thing, question. Okay. So this is in general this idea about riba. Okay, debt. One of the things. So for sale. Oh, subhanallah, I mixed it up. Riba is one of the big issues in debt. Okay, in sale, one of the big issues is what they call gharar. Gharar. Gharar is like excessive uncertainty. Excessive uncertainty. So this is one of the issues with sales. So if you're selling something, the Prophet ﷺ said, "La tabi' ma laysa indak." Don't sell what you don't have. Don't sell that's not with you. The thing that's not with you. Okay. So if I want to sell something, I have to make sure that if I'm selling something specific, like I'm telling you this particular marker that was used in the Islamic finance class, all right? Particular marker. In this case, if I sell it to you, I have to have it. Right? If I'm telling you, I'm going to sell you a generic Expo marker. There's like 1,000,000 of them, right? I'm going to sell you, 100 Expo markers. It's described, it's clear, there's no uncertainty. I can deliver it. Then it's okay for me to do that, for me to sell it. Typically, it'll be either salam, you give me the money, and then I will agree when I'm going to deliver the markers to you, or the wheat, or the corn, or something that is described. Or maybe I have it in a warehouse, and I show you a picture of it, and it's generic. It's not a specific one. There's no uncertainty. It's okay. So you have to be careful from gharar. You have to be careful in sales that whatever you're selling, it's clear, there's no uncertainty, it's not going to lead to people having a dispute. Like, you said you were selling me this, but you cheated me. You're not gonna, It's not going to be like that. Everything is very clear. So this is a very important thing. Back in the day, they had kinds of sales like these kind of gambling kind of sales. Like, okay, there's like a bunch of things. You pay money and you throw a rock, and whatever you hit, you buy. You pay the money, and then whatever you hit, you buy. You don't know what you're going to buy. So that's not allowed. Those kinds of transactions where you don't know, or they'll say, okay, you buy whatever's in this box, you pay, you don't know what's in it, right? When you pay. This is considered ghara, right? Because you don't know what you're buying. So either if you don't know what you're buying, you don't know the price, it becomes like gambling. And you're not allowed to do that with money. Allah gave us money as a ni'mah, as a blessing, and you have a certain adab in how we transact. We have to know clearly what we're buying, know clearly what we're selling, right? If we're selling something, we have to be able to deliver it, we have to have it, or if we don't have it, then we describe it, But to say, okay, I'm going to sell you something, specific thing, a pair of Michael Jordan shoes, Jordans worn by Jordan in the championship. And it's like, you don't have them. And somebody's willing to pay, $500,000 for them. And you're like, okay, I have them, don't worry. I'll do the contract, you sell it, and then you go and you try to find the thing. So that's not allowed, If you make a transaction, buy and sell, if you say, look, if I'm able to get this, then you pay me. You can do it like that. If then, right? It's not going to cause a dispute. But if you make a sale, like finalized sale, contract signed, stamped, notarized, I have sold you, I'm going to deliver to you in 1 week, and then you start scrambling to find, it's not allowed. Okay, so this excessive uncertainty. So with sale, you have to be careful from this. With things that relate to debt, you have to be careful from riba. And partnership, you have to be careful from being unfair. Unfair. So what is the main thing with unfair? If you have a partnership with two people and one person says, okay, look, I'm going to give you the money, we're partners, but, I get, my profit is guaranteed. You take all the risk. That's not allowed in Islam, okay? If it's a partnership, it's not allowed to do it like that. It's unfair. You can say, yeah, but the person is okay with it. Yeah, but God is not okay with it. You know what I'm saying? The rules are like that. So with partnerships, if we're partners, then we can agree the profits, how we want to split. That's okay. Maybe one person, he has a lot of expertise, a lot of knowledge. I got you. A lot of knowledge, right? He's going to get 75% of the profit. You get 25 because, mashallah, you're still new in the business. That's okay. But the losses, you have to split it according to how much money everybody put in. For him to say, look, you bear all the losses because you're new, you bear all the losses and I don't bear losses, or that's not allowed. So that's in general, the rule that you have to be careful from partnership. Yes, brother. Are raffles Islamic? If they give you the thing for free, the ticket for free, it's okay. If let's say you are joining an event, right? And maybe there's an entrance fee, and they just everybody who buys a ticket to the event, they just give them a raffle ticket. It's just kind of like it's not an important thing. You're not paying separately for the raffle, then it's okay. But if you're paying separately, look, if you want to join the raffle, you pay, $1 and you get a ticket. Then it becomes like gambling. So then it's not allowed. Then it becomes like lottery or something like that. You're not allowed in Islam. Anytime you give some money, you have to get a product back or a service. You don't give money to play a game and then maybe you win, maybe you don't. So that's also the adab with money. Allah created money as a serious thing. There are people who are poor who need the money. Allah didn't create money for us to just play around with it like that. We play with other things. Play with archery, play with wrestling, play basketball. Don't play with money. Okay? Okay, so inshallah, this one clear? I know there are some people who had some question. Maybe I can go back to the question. Yeah, go ahead. Mm-hmm. So it depends on, we said that loans in Islam are considered to be charitable in nature. So if it's charitable in nature and there's no extra increase, then there's no issue, okay? But if there is an increase, then that's not allowed if it's contractual. If if we're talking about there is a purchase of an asset, purchase of a car, purchase of something, and then selling it, then that's not considered a loan in Sharia. That's considered to be a sale. So then, it's okay for a person to protect their rights in these ways. Okay, let me get back to the question. Okay, then we'll come back. All right, so I have this now. How are we doing on time? I'm worried that what time is Aisha is 10:45. All right, awesome, man. MashaAllah. Okay, so we're doing a lot of background, but then all the answers will come quickly after. So how to buy a house with riba? Let's talk about the house, okay? Bismillah. So I think I've already covered it. Effectively, if you look at a regular bank, so this is you, all right, person, okay? He wants to buy this house. This is a house, okay? And then you have the bank here, all right? He says, he makes the application. I want to buy this house. Great. The bank will say, effectively, I know the bank doesn't give him the money, but effectively the way we look at it is that the bank gives him the money, the loan, okay? He takes the money, he buys a house, buy a house. Okay, we figured, okay. So he wants to buy a house. Let's say the house is $200,000. We still have $200,000 houses here in Michigan. MashaAllah, Allah bless you guys. Okay? In Maryland, you don't have that. Okay? So he says, I want to buy this house for $200,000. The bank says, okay, I'll give you $200,000. Okay? But you have to pay me back over time. The bank is saying, you have to pay me over 30 years, $400,000. Over 30 years. So he has to pay, installments, over 30 years. Now, he uses that money, he gives this $200,000 to buy the house, and now effectively the house is, the deed of the house is his. Deed of the house is his. But the bank also puts a mortgage. So the bank puts a mortgage. What is a mortgage on the house? It's saying basically the bank tells the court and tells the world, look, this guy owes me money. He owes me $200,000 plus the interest. If he doesn't pay, after X number of months, I have the right to come and sell this house. Make an auction, sell it, and then pay off my loan, and whatever extra, if there's extra, he can keep it. So that's what the mortgage is. It gives the bank, it declares that the bank has a debt, and that this house is securing it, and the bank has a right, if the person doesn't pay, to sell it. Okay. So this is this is my messy drawing of it. Okay, I'm not really good at drawing. Just forgive me. Okay, so the Islamic one. So the issue here is what? The issue is that the bank gave him the money. Gave him money. He used the money to buy the house. Of course, the money is going to go to a escrow agent, and then it's going to be released after the documents are signed. But effectively, that's what happened. Okay, he buys the house. The deed is in his name. He's the owner of the house. Okay, and then the bank is putting a mortgage on the house to secure its rights, to sell this house if he doesn't pay it. Okay, so and the issue, of course, is that there is an increase, and this is why many scholars. I'm not going to say every scholar in the world, but many scholars say that this is a problematic transaction. Okay. So, Islamic one. So, what's the Islamic alternative? Okay. The Islamic alternative, you have the same guy, okay, and then what is he going to do? There's a couple of different ways that we can do it. So then you have the bank, okay, then you have the house, okay. Basically, what will happen here, he makes his application. He says, I want to buy this house. And he will give a promise. He says, I promise you, O bank, if you buy this house for $200,000, I promise I'll buy it from you for $400,000. And I'll pay you over 30 years. The bank will say, okay, that's a serious promise. You sure you're going to do it? Okay, yes, sign. Okay, great. Then the bank says, okay, since you gave me that promise, then I will go ahead and buy the house. Okay, so they give the 400K. Oh, sorry, the 200K. So the bank will buy the house. Sometimes the bank will give a power of attorney to the customer
for him to do the documentation for buying the house. Sometimes the bank will, and typically sometimes the bank will actually be on the title of the house. But the point from a Sharia perspective, the bank will buy the house and it gives the 200,000 to buy the house. Okay, so then the bank it owns the house. Okay, now the next step after it owns the house, what does the bank do? The bank will then sell the house for how much? For 400K. Okay, the bank will still we said mortgage, right? So the bank will then still put a mortgage on the house. Why put a mortgage on the house? Because now he has already sold the house to the customer. So now the customer owns the house. What if he doesn't pay? The bank still has to have the right to sell the house and get his money. Okay? So then now he has to make his payments, okay, over 30 years. So this method is called murabaha. The Arabic word for it is murabaha. Murabaha lil-amr bil-shara. This method, murabaha, which is basically when you sell something and there's a particular profit that you add onto it. This is one of the most popular ways of Islamic financing in the world. Whether it's for cars, whether it's for equipment, whether it's for houses, whether it's for like anything, okay? This is done a lot. Where somebody wants something, bank says, okay, what do you want? I want this thing. Is it halal? Yes, it's halal. Okay, cool. Here's the deal. If I buy this thing, I will sell it to you at this profit rate over this period of time. Are you okay with that? Yes? Okay. I want you to write a promise that you will buy this thing if I buy it. Okay. So then after he does that, the bank will buy it, and then the bank will own it, and then it will sell it to the customer. Okay?
It's the same thing. What's the first one is exactly the second. It's exactly just there. I didn't see big. The Islamic finance company own the house also and make a mortgage, and the house at the end it's a $400,000. It's the same thing, the same profit, same everything. Similar. Yeah. Give me try to explain to me something to see a difference.
Okay. So the main issue is this part. This is the main issue here, which is that the Islamic one is actually buying the house. When you buy
the top one also the bank buy the house.
No, this one the customer is buying the house. The customer is getting the money, and then the customer is using the money to buy the house. Customer is buying it.
So this is the only difference.
That's what makes it bay'ah as opposed to riba. So the bay'ah, for bay'ah you have to buy something. By the way, I'm not here to say that to judge, because there are opinions that scholars have said that in non-Muslim countries that it's okay to do this, right? For your first home, there are opinions that say that. So I respect all the opinions. So I'm just explaining kind of what the majority of the scholars are saying, right? So the issue here is that the bank is giving you the money. So they're giving you 200,000. They say, what do you want this for? I want to buy a house. Okay, here's the money. Make sure you buy the house. And I want the house as a security, because if you don't pay me back what you owe me, then I'm going to take the house. Here, the bank is the customer. The Islamic bank is saying, I am going to use my own money to buy the house, and then after buying it, I'm going to sell it to you. That is the main difference. Yes, brother.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar,
Okay, thank you.
Allahu Akbar.
I think we're going to continue until the Iqamah, inshallah.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله.
أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
Okay, so let's go back to this.
So, brother,
Yeah,
just a question.
Fadl.
So maybe I can explain potentially what the sister is asking
Sure, sure.
in a acceptable way,
Okay,
depending on what your belief is.
okay.
So the way I look at bay'ah is what it is in the Islamic system, what it is just they bought the house, right? They bought the house. Now you have to buy the house from them, is what it comes down to, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what they're doing is they're taking the value of money for the next 20 or 30 years that they would not be able to use the $200,000 for. They built that into the bay'ah, the best way to put it.
Yeah.
They won't call it interest, but that essentially that is the value of money that the bank is doing the same way. They call it riba, they call it interest. So they've already built in the system so that when you pay back the 400, just like you would done at the bank would be charging you interest, riba, where the Islamic bank would be saying, no, it's bay'ah because this is the amount of money that I cannot use for the next 20 years, 30 years, and this is what the cost of that money is to be allowed to use. Is that a good way?
Yeah, I mean, that explains the pricing mechanism. The pricing has to do with the value of money, right? And there's ways of calculating that. And that's why the pricing is effectively the same, right? It has to do with inflation, it has to do with a lot of things. Yeah, but
Assume the market is bad and is getting lower,
That's
the
the-
house is not,
But that's the
the
problem.
cost is not gonna be 400, it's gonna be 100 instead of
But
400.
that's the issue, that's the risk you take. That's
so there are some people, so there's another method, so this is called murabaha, okay? Let me show you another method, which the other method is called, there are like 3 or 4 methods actually that people use for Islamic financing. All of them, inshallah, are permissible. The other one is called ijara. Ijara, and the way ijara works is that you have the customer, you have the bank, right? I don't know if this is great. And then you have the house. And what happens is you typically also have a promise. If you buy this house, then I will lease it from you over 30 years, okay? And so the bank will buy the house. They buy the house, okay? And then what they're going to do is they will lease for 30 years. And then the customer is going to make the lease payments, okay, over 30 years. After he finishes those lease payments, then the customer then the bank will basically sell the house. But during that period, the bank keeps ownership of the house until the customer pays all the lease payments. And typically the ownership payment, is in the lease. So typically at the end, it'll transfer for like $1 or something. So it's kind of like a financial lease in a sense. So this is another methodology that is used called ijara. Yes, yes.
What happens if somebody is unable to pay the lease? So let's say they get to year 29 and then all of a sudden they can't pay.
Then typically what happens is that every payment is split between, the primary lease amount and then like the buyback amount. So typically there is amount that is kept in another account that is effectively for buying back the house. So sometimes the way they do this is they make it such that every payment, part of it, is kept in an account to accumulate to buy back the house. And then part of it is a pure lease. And so if the person is not able to buy it, then whatever is in that account, that's still theirs. So that's a typical another method. So this is an ijara. So effectively, you still have the idea of the bank is buying the house and then leasing it, right? There's another method. Let me just get this other method. 1 second. Okay, I got you. The other method, okay, which is, so murabaha is still used by a couple of financial institutions. The most popular one is diminishing musharaka. So you have the bank here, and then you have the house, then you have the customer. In this one, what happens is that the customer says, there's typically a promise or something like that. That's typically incorporated in the thing, because the bank always wants to cover itself. But here the customer says, look, I will pay 20% of this house value. The bank will say, I'll pay 80%. So we own it together. So we co-own. So the customer is, so the bank promise, and then the customer is going to put, let's say 20% value of the house, okay? Let's say, $100,000 house. Let's say it's 100K. Okay, he's going to put 20K. And the bank is going to put 80%. They're going to buy 80%. So effectively, 80% is for the bank, and then the others, let's say 20% is for the customer. So effectively, this 20% is going to buy the house, okay? So then what's going to happen now, it's owned together between these two parties. What the bank will do is the bank will say, okay, I'm going to lease you, he's going to lease the bank's share, okay, his 80%, okay, he's going to lease it. So you have to pay, 80% you don't own, but you're living there, so you have to pay the lease, just like the other example. And then, so there's that, and then the customer is going to pay every month. I'm going to not draw anymore. Every month he's going to pay for the lease, but he's also paying a certain amount to buy more shares, increase his share. So after a while he'll have 25, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, until he owns the whole house. But the house is owned together between the two parties, between the bank and the customer. So this is what Guidance uses. University Bank now uses that. So many are using this because it's considered to be like the best one. And then also if they want to have adjustable rate, because the lease you can agree, just like any lease, it changes, the price can change every year. They can agree that it can change as well. So it's very flexible. Yeah.
Another method that I know about, since I took an internship in Kuwait Finance Hub, there's also a method called tawarruk. You know about this? Where basically the bank would buy a commodity in the name of the person who they want to lend a loan to, and then they would sell that commodity for hire to a third party, and then lend that money to the person.
Yeah, not lend, transfer it. Yeah, but tawarruk doesn't exist in America yet.
Okay.
Don't tell them. Okay, secret. I'll talk about tawarruk maybe in some of the other things, but for home finance, tawarruk is not considered to be an optimal method, and there's a lot of debate. We use it a lot in Malaysia, which is tawarruk is like murabaha, but in tawarruk, the way it works is that instead of doing murabaha for the house, they will say, okay, we want to give you cash, so we will do murabaha, we will buy like palm oil, or we will buy some commodities or a portfolio of stocks. We buy it for you worth 100,000, and then we sell it to you for 200,000, and then you can liquidate it, get the cash, and now you have 100 cash, then you can then buy the house cash yourself, but you owe us the money. So this is a different kind of way where they need to give you cash, because just buying the asset won't work. So in some countries they have this kind of challenge. Okay, so effectively, I mean, when it comes to home financing, those are the main methods. La Riba has a method, but it's kind of complicated, where it's called Bay' Istithna. So where they will buy the house and they will sell you the house, but they will exclude the use of the house for like 30 years. And then they will lease you the use of the house for that period. So all of the methods have one thing in common. They always buy the house. That's where you get into ahallallahu al-bay' wa haram riba. Every Islamic finance company, they have to buy it. And that's the main difference between the Islamic and the conventional anything. In any loan, in any transaction, if you remember one thing, the Islamic always has to buy the asset. Even if they own the asset for 1 minute, and then they have to sell it, and then they have to lease it, or they enter into a partnership, and then they lease it, and then they sell you their share, gradually. But that always has to be the issue. Yeah, let me see. Your brother in the back hasn't asked.
So it's not really about. I always thought that it was about the fact that I bought a $200,000 house and ended up paying $400K. It's not about the extra money I'm giving. It's just how they bought that house.
Yep, 100%. That's how it is all over the world in every Muslim country. Yeah.
But my problem is the ijara is 80-20%.
Yeah.
And the room to rent means that 80%. If the house has a problem plumbing, for example,
Yeah.
it's my responsibility. Despite we both are co-owners,
Yeah.
we could both share the fixing the house, but this doesn't happen. Right?
So, of course, we can get into more details. I don't want to get into too many details, but the thing is, when it comes, scholars debate about what is especially with this partnership model. So with the murabaha model, the beauty of it, no responsibility on the bank. He sold it, it's done, it's your house, not my problem. If it explodes, not my problem, right? It's your house, okay? But when you get into the partnership or the lease, the bank owns it and he's leasing it to you. What happens if the house catches on fire? No more house. How can he keep taking rental from you? So this is where you have to look at the contract. There's more details. They'll say, okay, you have to get insurance. Okay, if you don't get the insurance, then you're liable, for being negligent, not getting the insurance. So they'll like maintenance also, like the brother's mentioning. Who's responsible for the maintenance? The major, like the roof has a problem. Normally, the landlord would be responsible for that, right? Is it permissible for them to agree that you're going to be responsible? Yes or no? If they say, okay, look, if there's any major maintenance, you fix it and then we will reimburse you. Typically, sometimes they do that. But there's also another aspect which they have a certain amount of rent that they can also adjust the rent to cover those things. So there's a lot of discussions in the details, which now this is not really the forum for it. But an important thing that I want to mention is that, and we can always communicate more, inshallah, offline, is that for a company to be Islamic, right, there has to be a Sharia board. Sharia board, it means you have to have at least 3 scholars who are experts in not just fiqh, but also transaction law, right? They have to understand this kind of stuff, right? And they have to look at the contracts word by word, line by line, look at the processes, look at everything, make sure that it is in line with Sharia, in line with the rules. And then every year there's something called a Sharia audit, where they check to see, okay, we've given a fatwa, we've looked at all the documents, this is all the rules, and the company has agreed. Now they're actually giving financing, okay? They have to see, are your financings that you've actually done in line with the fatwa that we have given you? So I did this once for a university bank. So I had to ask them, okay, this is the fatwa, the official documents that are approved. And then where are you financing? They're financing in 10 different states. I need examples from all the 10 states. What methods do you use? Each state we have 2 different kinds. I need 2 different samples from each one, random. So I need 20 different examples. And then I'm looking, each one is like 100 pages long, okay? And then I'm looking, okay, this page, is it in line with the fatwa? Yes, okay, second page, third page, fourth page, 1,000 pages, okay? All of these deals. And then, oh, this one, there's a document here that the scholars haven't looked at. Okay, we flagged this. This is an issue. This one has a document that's not in line with the scholars. And then we bring a report to them to say, okay, then we discuss it. There are some documents that we didn't approve. This is real. This is how we did it. Does this make the transaction still okay, or is the transaction invalid? Because maybe this document make the transaction haram. Then all of the profit, they have to give it to charity, right? If something like that there's a transaction that's haram, or they need to give the person back the profit or whatever, they have to agree with the customer. So we found some documents maybe that they didn't get approval, but it didn't invalidate the transaction. So then the scholars would look at those documents, approve them, and then move forward. So you have to have, this is called Sharia governance. So it's because all of these issues, scholars have to look at them, because sometimes you have to weigh. There's not black and white. You have to weigh the benefit, the harm, the opinion of the different scholars and the situation and the law.
and all of these things until you come to a conclusion. But this is very, very important that you have to have a Sharia board, 3 scholars, you have to have Sharia audit. If you have an organization that's doing that, inshallah, they're good. If they're not doing that, it's because as a community, we're not demanding it. But that is, in Malaysia, if you don't do that, you go to jail. If you have something Islamic, and you don't have your Sharia board, you have your Sharia audit, you're following the fatwa 100%, and you say this is Islamic and it's not, you go to jail for like 5 years. So that's really cool about Malaysia. Yeah, I got you. You're next. Oh, sorry. Let me get the brother, and then I'll get you. Yeah. You.
What's the name of the transaction where the bank essentially acts as the broker and as the financier, and they essentially charge you a flat, like not always flat, but sometimes flat financing fee, and at a level that's compensatory to what would have been had you taken a loan, and it would be equivalent to the interest on that. What's that?
I wouldn't say there's something where the bank acts as a realtor, because a realtor is just an agent. But in all of the Islamic ones, the bank is acting as a principal. The bank is actually buying the asset and then selling it to you. So there's a couple of, one is called murabaha. That was the first one, where it's buying and selling it to you. Second is called ijara, which is leasing. And the third is diminishing musharaka, which is diminishing co-ownership, where you buy it together, and then the bank is leasing its share, and then you're slowly buying the share.
I'm saying that there's an additional type of transaction where, as a form of not charging interest on the money, they charge you the fee for the financial service.
Yeah, I don't think that's legit. I mean, I would need to know specifically, but is this an Islamic bank or a conventional bank? Yeah. And I would need to know what it is, because it can't just be a fee for a financial service. It has to be the bank is actually buying the house and then doing it. Otherwise, it's not Islamic. If it's not buying the asset, buying the house, then it's not Islamic in general. Yeah, brother. Yeah.
Few months later, they, I don't know, they sell the contract.
Yeah.
Bank, end up paying the bank.
Yeah.
The bank, not the UIF.
Yeah.
So what happens to the contract that you initially signed up?
Yeah. I mean, the contract is always going to be enforced as you signed it. They selling it does not affect you. Whether them selling it is halal or not, that's another story. In general, the Islamic banks that I'm aware of, when they sell it, it's done in a halal way. So basically, they allow someone else to take their place. So that is generally done in a halal way. Let me try to move on a little bit. One thing about refinancing, I just want to say here for refinancing, you can do refinancing Islamically, okay? But it has to do, there are different ways that it can be done. It's always going to go back to this model. So if, for example, if you want to do refinancing, you own the house and you want to refinance, then it's not going to be a murabaha, pure murabaha, because the bank can't buy the house from you and sell it back to you. That's not allowed. Sometimes what the bank will do, they'll say, we can buy the house from you, but you would have to put your wife on the title. So then we're selling it to you and your wife. So and that could be allowed. Or if you own the house, they can buy it from you and they can lease it back to you using ijara. Or they can buy it from you, right? And they can do a diminishing musharaka, where now they're going to enter into a partnership with you, where you own a share and they own a share. So they can do it that way. So it is possible to refinance in the Islamic. It's going to function in the same way, but sometimes, especially on the murabaha, because there's a prohibition against bay'al-aina, which you can't buy something from someone cash and then sell it back to them on installments. So that's considered to be a door of riba. So they would typically say you need to add someone to the title. So that's just kind of a detail. But it is possible to refinance, Yani, in using all the models. You got too many questions, bro. All right, go ahead. But probably a lot of people have the same question, so go ahead.
Mine is about the central banks. So, for example, in multiple countries such as Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, which are the ones that I know of at least, the central bank does do riba. And in this case, the central bank sets a rate at which the house is sold with profits, with like buying a house. For example, let's say the central bank sets a 1% rate. That would be a 1% profit on each house sold, for example. And in that case, how would that work Islamically? Because if the central bank itself is a bank of riba and it's helping finance the Islamic bank, then what's going on there?
I mean, I think there is some details there, but in general, the transactions are regulated by the central bank, but the central bank generally doesn't specify exactly how much the banks have to charge. They do set certain interest rates that affects the pricing of the banks, but it doesn't really have too much bearing on our transactions, I would say, in general. That's my general answer. All right, let me try to move a little quickly, okay? This always takes it. Now, car is the exact same thing. If you find a company that is doing car financing, then that's also permissible. They'll buy the car or they'll buy the car and sell it to you, buy the car and lease it to you. Or let's say if you know somebody, you have a friend who's like wants to do that, wants to do that kind of business. They have money and you say, can you do an Islamic transaction with me? It doesn't have to do with the bank. They have money and you say, can you buy this car? I want $20,000 car. Can you buy it and then I'll lease it from you, or buy it and then I'll buy it from you, in installments, because maybe they're not really able to give you Qard Hasan, or they want to have some small investment, and so people get together and they want to do this kind of thing. It's also allowed. So this is for a house. Another thing that I have to mention briefly, which is that if there is someone, a builder, who owns the house, if they own the house, or owner who wants to give you owner financing, that is then the same as if you have the bank who owns the house and gives you and sells it to you on installment. So let's say you go to an owner who has a house and you say, can I buy the house on installment from you? And he agrees, then it's Sharia compliant. Even if he insists to use the word interest or whatever, if it's a specific time frame, look, 10 years, you pay me this much, 5% a year, and you agree. You say, can we not use the word interest? Can we just say profit, and just give a lump sum? If he agrees to that, that's great. If he insists, then it's okay. You can still do it. Because effectively, the rule in Sharia is that in contracts, we look at the substance over the form. So effectively, he's the owner and he's selling to you on installments, even if he calls that a loan or something like that. Yeah.
So that means if there's an asset, someone's selling their own asset, whether it's over time or not.
Yeah.
You can see how much they want.
Yeah, it can. Yeah, but it has to be set. You have to say, okay, this is amount. So because you can't, we talked about gharar, right? In sales, it can't be unknown. The price can't be unknown. It has to be set. This is how much. Okay? Yes, brother. It's okay. Like I said, ideally you want, so if you have to set how long the time period is. So let's say it's going to be 5 years. He's saying 7% interest rate. If you can convince him to make it a lump sum, you calculate the 7% interest over the 5 years and you get X amount. And you just say, look, can we put in the contract, it'll be this amount, right? Without using the word interest. If you can, great. If you can't, then it's still okay. You have it as a fixed, but it has to be a fixed amount in the fixed term. So it's not like, okay, 5 years, and then as it goes 6, 7, then you just increase interest, increase the payments. That wouldn't be allowed. Okay? I'm conscious about the questions and these things. Let me get into. Let me try to finish some of these. Okay. All right. So I think we're basically done with this, and we can talk more after prayer. Okay. Savings accounts, because this needs a little bit more detail. Savings accounts. And I just want to say about houses, I respect other opinions. There are opinions that say it's permissible. I respect that. Okay. Even those people who say it's permissible to buy houses using regular mortgage in a non-Muslim country, they say that if you have an Islamic alternative that can get you out of the difference of opinion, go with that one, in general. So we say they're wrong, you know what I mean? Savings accounts, in general, it's better. Is it better to say don't give me any interest, Or should you take the interest and give it to charity? There are even opinions that say you can take the interest because the kuffar are giving you money in your non-Muslim country and you can take it. So the Hanafis have this approach. So safest thing, don't even take the interest. That's the safest. Number two, if they give it to you, give it in charity. Number three, if some people say, look, I'm going to follow the opinion of a scholar who says that it's permissible in non-Muslim countries to take the interest because it strengthens the Muslims, because that is an opinion that's respected. As long as you're following the scholars and not just following your desires, then inshallah you're okay.
Can I use, sorry,
Yeah.
Can I use the interest by myself? So can I donate it later?
Yeah, you should donate it.
Yeah, I can collect my big here and then I can donate.
Sure. You can do that. If you want to do it. The idea would be that you're getting this and you want to get rid of it. But if you can get it with no interest, it's probably better. There's a reason why they're giving you interest on that account, because those accounts are more stable for them, so they can use it to give funding. The non-interest ones are more like the checking accounts. They're not stable for the banks, so they're not able to use that money as easily to give loans. So all of those, they have perspective. Someone asked about keeping money in U.S. banks. Historically, the scholar said you shouldn't keep money in conventional banks. There are some Islamic banks now, like University Bank. You can put money there, so that exist, But they say that if you have a need, then you can do it. If you don't have a need, it's better not to do it, because they're going to use the money to give loans and things like that. But if you have a need, like you're doing transactions and it's going to make your life easier, and if you don't have an account, it's going to make your life kind of difficult, then yeah, inshallah, it's okay. Credit cards, generally speaking, with credit cards, it's based on loans. So generally speaking, scholars say you should stay away from it. You shouldn't definitely borrow on the credit card and not pay. If you can use the credit card and you have a need to use the credit card and you believe very strongly you will pay and you're not going to fall into the interest because the interest is not allowed, right? Then you can use it if you have a need, right? And you're able to manage it properly. Otherwise, they say stay away from it. But yeah, the points and rewards, it's okay, it's all halal to do all that stuff. And as long as you can manage it, okay, but don't take any cash advance, don't pay any interest. That's the thing. You make sure you guys don't pay any interest, that's the thing. So we're going to go pray.
You can continue for 5 more minutes.
5 more minutes? Okay, inshallah. So credit cards, we're good. Education, investment, as long as investments are halal, you're good. But we have to go back we have to talk about how to invest. Yeah, it's fine. It's all halal. Basically, they're giving you a gift. So there's no issue. Oh, you see, it's not on the list. So that would be a bonus one. Okay, I want to just go through this one that we have here for this next 5 minutes. I'm going to pause the question, okay? But we're going to come back after Aisha. Okay, crypto coins. I just say in general, there's a long fatwa by this from the Malaysian authorities. Crypto, they say that whatever is the underlying of the crypto, there's two kinds. They say one is like the ones that function like a currency, like Bitcoin and Ethereum and stuff like that. Generally, they say it's okay, it's permissible. The ones that are like ICO, like tokens that represent businesses, you have to look at the business. Is it halal or haram, right? And the ones that have like gold backing or something like gold or silver or US or fiat, then it'll take the ruling of whatever it's backing, whatever the backing is. So if it's gold, then you have to treat it like the rules on gold. If it's fiat, you treat it like the rules of that. If it's, but Bitcoin, Ethereum and those things are okay. If it's like something completely worthless, then you have to be careful that you don't want to fall into gambling. So that's for this one. Stock options, general opinion of the scholars is that it's not allowed. That's the general opinion. There are some scholars who say it's allowed. I was going to tell you this. It goes back to whether or not, because sales, whether there's gharar or not. What are you buying when you buy a stock option? You're buying the right but not the obligation to buy certain shares in a certain time or to sell a certain shares at a certain time. Is that a permissible thing to sell? The right. It's not a product, it's not a service, it's a right. So scholars who said that you can buy and sell right say that it's okay. Scholars who say that right is not something you can buy and sell. So then they say then effectively you're not buying and selling anything real. So this is the issue. You have to be buying and selling something real. So, but there are some opinions that say the rights are real. And so those people say the options are okay. There are people who, the majority say the rights are not real. So they don't allow. This also goes back to someone asked about insurance. So the general rule that scholars say, once again, you are buying security. Someone is promising you that if you get hurt, I will cover. If a person dies, I will cover. That promise, is that permissible to buy and sell? So the majority of scholars said that that's not a real product or service. That's just a promise. So they don't consider that a valid sale because it has too much gharar, too much uncertainty. It's like you're buying something unknown, right? So they don't allow insurance. Some scholars said, yes, it's the security and the commitment and it is something valid to sell. So they allow. Minority of scholars allow insurance. Majority don't allow, okay? But they say that if you have a need, that where if you don't have this insurance, it's difficult, give you a difficulty, then they allow. So they say something like health insurance, car insurance, house insurance, masjid insurance, whatever. They say, and if not using this thing is going to cause you difficulty, then they'll allow. Because the main reason why these type of gharar transactions, speculative transactions, prohibited is because they lead to people fighting each other and they lead to a lot of disunity. And so they say that if that risk is less and if there is a need, then it could be allowed. So that's generally speaking for insurance. Sometimes the scholars say you should take the minimum, but generally the idea is it goes back to the need. Fulfill your need. Don't try to get rich off insurance, but fulfill your need. Sharia doesn't want you to be in difficulty, right? Sharia wants ease for you, but at the same time in a halal way. So this is for insurance. You have to kind of balance this kind of thing. I'm going to give quickly, and then after Isha we can be together. Okay, insurance is done. All right. Loans. I think we already covered loans in general, and futures. Majority of scholars say it's not allowed. Once again, they say it's just promises. What are you buying? What are you selling? You're saying, in the future, I put a down payment that, I will buy and sell something in the future. Generally speaking, scholars don't like that. I think we'll stop here, and then we will reconvene after Aisha. So we'll finish all of our questions, inshallah. Okay? Barakallahu feekum. I have a card. Oh, I don't have any.
I can talk to you 5 minutes after Aisha. I have a specific issue where somebody have his house foreclosure, and he's gonna lose the house next week.
Allahu Akbar.
And I would like to say, if we save him, what the other rights we can have.
Okay, I don't have any cards now. I can give you my contact, but I'm here after.